Arrival in chains. They came from the stars not with open hands, but with shackles. The fleet arrived in silence, titanic vessels blotting out the night sky, their hulls obsidian and pulsing with violet energy. Over every major city, a ship hovered like a looming guillotine. Within minutes, every communication channel was hijacked. Every screen flickered, then stabilized, revealing the image of a creature that seemed to drip disdain. Tall, gray-skinned, draped in silks of imperial purple, its golden eyes unblinking. "Humans of Earth," it began, voice low and oily, "you now belong to the Jar Dominion. Resistance will bring extinction. Submission will bring survival. Choose wisely." Across the globe, silence reigned, then chaos. Emergency meetings, scrambled jets, panicked civilians. World leaders convened virtually, some arguing for negotiation, others insisting on immediate retaliation. But the Jar Dominion was not interested in diplomacy. 3 hours after the broadcast, they gave their demonstration. A single energy lance fired from orbit. Nairobi vanished, turned to glass. Over 10 million gone in an instant. That night, the world changed. In a hastily assembled war room beneath Cheyenne Mountain, U.S. General Susan Koenig slammed her fist on the table. That wasn't an attack. That was branding cattle. Across from her, Chinese General Liu Jin nodded grimly. "They think we are livestock. Meat with tools." "They are wrong," said Indian scientist Dr. Arjun Patel, pulling up data on the fleet's orbiting patterns. "They mistake unity for weakness. We'll show them the difference." The United Nations reconvened in an emergency session, the first one where every nation spoke with a single voice. The president of Nigeria, tears still streaking his face, rose to the camera. "They thought one city would break us. They thought fear would silence us. They were wrong." The vote was unanimous. Earth would not kneel, but the Jar expected resistance. Within a day, they deployed occupation forces, towering soldiers in exosuits, synthetic drones, and automated drop fortresses. Earth's military scrambled to react, but the difference in technology was vast. Skirmishes turned into massacres. Every human defeat fed the Empire's arrogance. Then came the second broadcast. This time, it was from Earth. A hacked feed hijacked the Empire's own network. A human, blooded, face suit-covered, wearing a torn flak vest, looked into the camera. Behind him, a downed alien dropship burned, casting flickering orange light across the ruins. "You want slaves," he growled. "Come take them. We'll bury you in the attempt." Static followed. Then silence. Across the galaxy, the Jar Dominion marked Earth as a minor rebellion. Troublesome, but manageable. Containable. They would learn. They had come for slaves. What they woke instead was a species that refused to break. The war we never wanted. The first occupation zones were meant to pacify. They did the opposite. Jar soldiers landed in major cities with precise, methodical efficiency. Streets were cleared, communication hubs seized, power grids rerouted. Humans were corralled into work sectors. No announcements, no discussions. Compliance was expected. They didn't get it. In the ruins of Berlin, a grandmother strangled a Jar trooper with his own command cable. In Tokyo, high school students hacked a patrol drone and crashed it into a command tower. In Sao Paulo, a group of sanitation workers used sewer tunnels to plant homemade explosives beneath an alien garrison. The resistance didn't wait. It grew, feral, fast, and everywhere. On the outskirts of Denver, Sergeant Mateo Cruz led a squad of 20 former mechanics, students, cops. None had official orders, but all had lost something. They struck in the dead of night, using EMP traps and old rifles. One by one, patrols stopped returning. The Jar called it sabotage. Cruz called it payback. Humanity didn't fight fair. They couldn't. Instead, they fought like wolves, biting, vanishing, regrouping. They used terrain the aliens didn't understand. Crumbling subways, winding slums, frozen forests. Earth itself became an ally. In Mumbai, Dr. Arjun Patel coordinated the first major breakthrough. Using salvaged alien tech, His team activated a downed drone and traced its signal back to a command ship. With that intel, a UN drone strike crippled the vessel mid-air. The wreckage landed in the Arabian desert, but it didn't stay there. Within hours, scavengers and engineers were pulling it apart for weapons, armor, and hope. Across the stars, the JAR commander overseeing the Earth campaign, High Castellan Ryvek, watched footage of humans dragging plasma coils through the sand. They should be fleeing, he hissed. Why are they rebuilding? His aide, a younger officer named Valrek, offered no answer. There wasn't one. Meanwhile, Earth broadcasted its own message. No governments, no faces, just a voice. We were peaceful. You taught us war. We were scattered. You united us. You burned our cities. Now you've lit a fire you can't put out. The feed ended with static, but the message echoed across every occupied zone. In the mountains of Afghanistan, in the jungles of the Congo, in the icy waste of Siberia, humans fought. And where they fought, they won small victories. Not because they were stronger, not because they were more advanced, but because they refused to give up. By the third week, Ryvak's reports were no longer marked stable. Losses were mounting. Occupation was collapsing. Morale was shifting. The Empire had come expecting obedience. Instead, it found a war. Rise of the Death Walders. The JAR had studied Earth before they arrived. They catalogued its gravity, atmosphere, temperature ranges. What they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was what it bred. This was not just a world. It was a crucible. The jungles of the Amazon swallowed 2 JAR platoons in a week. Humidity fried their senses. Insects invaded their suits. Booby traps laced with venom and homemade explosives left only twisted metal and silence. In Alaska, alien machines froze mid-March. Their power cores cracked under sub-zero temperatures. Human hunters picked them off one by one using antique rifles and patience. But the most dangerous part wasn't the environment, it was the people. In a ruined hospital outside Warsaw, Dr. Lena Markovich amputated her own arm using a plasma cutter to escape rubble. The next day, she was coordinating medical supply drops and organizing triage centers with military precision. In rural Canada, 12-year-old Sarah Kingsley led a band of survivors through the woods, using snares and a stolen sidearm to ambush JAR patrols. When questioned later, she only said, "They tried to take my dad. So I took their ship." Even some of the JAR began to falter. On a ruined farm in Argentina, a captured alien technician named Keleth was spared execution by a human soldier. When asked why, the soldier said, "You're not the one who dropped the bombs." Keleth defected that day. He wasn't the last. Others followed. Prisoners, conscripts, enslaved species within the Empire. They saw what the JAR hadn't, that humans didn't just fight for survival. They fought for each other. In a secret lab beneath Johannesburg, Dr. Patel and his global science team completed the impossible. They built the first hybrid energy rifle, JAR power cell, human wiring, a chassis made from mining equipment and steel pipes. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. They called it the Spark. Soon, Spark rifles were being manufactured in underground bunkers, 3D printed in basements, and mounted to pickup trucks. Combined with stolen dropships, Earth's scattered forces began to move like a real army. Operation Starburn was the first offensive. Using a patchwork fleet of hacked transports, jury-rigged shuttles, and reprogrammed JAR navigation systems, Resistance forces launched an assault on the orbital relay station above Earth. It wasn't supposed to succeed. It did. The battle was short, brutal, and final. When it was over, the relay exploded in a blinding pulse of fire, and the Earth lit up in cheers. Down below, Sergeant Mateo Cruz radioed in the kill code and turned to his squad, Spark rifle slung across his back. "They thought we were prey," he said. "Turns out we're the monsters under their bed." By the end of the month, High Castellan Ryvak's status report had only 2 words: send reinforcements. But none were coming. Earth had stopped being a conquest. It had become a contagion. The spark that burned an empire. The rebellion should have ended on Earth. That's what the JAR believed. Even after the relay fell, they expected to crush humanity with overwhelming force. They dispatched orbital reinforcements, 20 dreadships and a full division of shock troopers. They prepared to glass entire continents if necessary. But by the time they arrived, Earth had already changed. No longer fractured. No longer afraid. Every region had united under a single command structure. Underground networks spanned the globe. Resistance groups had become armies. The spark rifles were now mass-produced in covert factories carved into mountains and buried beneath cities. Even their communication was secure, encrypted with alien tech turned against its makers. The moment the new Jar fleet entered Earth's orbit, it was hit with coordinated jamming pulses. Navigation collapsed. Targeting systems failed. Missile locks dropped. Then, Earth struck back. A swarm of modified shuttles rose from the surface. Suicide drones rigged with fusion cores, flying hunks of metal and fury. They slammed into the dreadships with reckless abandon, lighting up the skies with explosions seen from every hemisphere. 3 dreadships fell within the first hour. From the shattered remains of the orbital relay, a transmission rang out, not in fear, but defiance. You wanted slaves. You made soldiers. You wanted obedience. You forged resistance. You came for one planet. Now you have a war. The voice was unmistakable. Sergeant Mateo Cruz, now field commander of Earth's orbital resistance. The rebellion didn't stop at Earth's atmosphere. Using captured Jar jump drives, human engineers and defectors from other enslaved species cobbled together the first interstellar warship made on Earth, the Defiant. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't elegant. But it worked. And it carried war to the stars. First to the Jar's supply depots on their rimward colonies. Then to their prison moons, where humans freed thousands. Worry, Drenthan, others the Empire had crushed long before it ever heard of Earth. For the first time in centuries, the Jar Dominion faced something it hadn't in generations. A united rebellion. The spark from Earth spread like wildfire. And at its heart was a death-world species that had refused to be broken. In the Jar's capital palace, High Castellan Ryvac knelt before the Emperor. His armor was scorched, one arm gone, and his pride shattered. They are not like the others, Ryvac rasped. They adapt. They learn. They fight like it's their nature. The Emperor's voice was cold and measured. Then we will break their nature. But it was already too late. Back on Earth, the people did not celebrate victory, because they knew the war was far from over. But they had something stronger than weapons. Stronger than fleets. They had unity. Fire. Purpose. Humanity had never asked for this war. But now that it had started, they would end it on their terms. And as they prepared for the long road ahead, one message echoed across every resistance broadcast, etched into every wall, painted across every captured Jar ship. We are not your slaves. We are your reckoning.